introduce yourselves, say who you guys are, and what we're here for.
Let's go. So, what's up, everybody? It's your boy Jaybird with another episode of Above the Clouds, and I am super excited about today's guest. We have Dr. Maria with us today. She specializes in hormones and getting your body back to its young, vigorous self, I would say. She is the owner of Live Agelessly here in Las Vegas. She's had her practice for
Wow, I've been Live Agelessly has been in existence now for almost 10 years.
almost 10 years now. So she's been a practicing doctor for
I don't even want to say close to 30 years
close
now,
to 30
more than 30.
years.
Yeah, look
So
at my daughter. So yeah, 30 years. Yeah,
30 years.
30 years.
All right. So 30-year veteran. So of practicing and learning and perfecting her craft because she cares about people and you know, getting them back to their self again. So without further ado, Dr. Maria, thank you for being here so
Yeah,
much.
thank you. Thank you for having me. It's hard for me to describe what it is that I do because originally I was trained as an obstetrician, gynecologist. So that's where my interest in hormones began. But my as a as an OBGYN, I was a surgeon. I did lots of my number one surgery was cesarean and then hysterectomies. And then I started dabbling into hormone replacement therapy because there was a point back in 2003, the WHI study, and it made us fearful of hormones. And we now know that that study back then was somewhat erroneous in the way the information was interpreted. And I've been kind of in the battlefields all by myself with a few others who are doing what I've been doing, which is giving women hormone replacement therapy. Specifically, I do a lot of testosterone replacement therapy. And so that led to me crossing over into taking care of men because one of my patients, her husband he asked me if I would do hormones on him. And I said, well, why? And he said, well, after everything you've done with her, I need to keep up. Right. And I thought, well, that's a good point. Yeah. So, and so the predominant, population of my patients are women because women gravitate towards women and sometimes men gravitate towards men. But, I have men as well. And so hormones are really amazing, though. And I think it's something that we're learning to be less fearful of. For the first time, I'm starting to see some of the oncologists who have patients that have breast cancer. They're telling them things like the testosterone that they were on likely saved their life or, help not really save their life, but help the diagnosis of the cancer to be at a lower stage.
Wow.
So because the hormones actually have a role in slowing up the progression of the cancer, which is really, really amazing. So and getting people to understand that hormones don't cause cancer. If anything, more people die from heart disease and heart attacks more so than cancer. And so we need to be concerned about that. And hormones can lower our risk for cardiovascular disease.
And I want you to talk about on a little bit is you're a cancer survivor yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And you've had to overcome anger. You've had to overcome bad mental state. You told I had the fortunate opportunity of diving in with Dr. Maria in Spain when we were out in Spain, and we went to dinner multiple times since then. And I've got to really learn about Dr. Maria's story. So if you could just tell the world just, a little bit about your story, your background, and then how you've gotten so involved in hormones, even helping me and my fiance trying to get back on track and what about that, because we text back and forth a little bit. And if you could just touch on that and tell your story, because I really think that what you have, and don't hold back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can cuss on here. You can say whatever you want to on here.
I'm going to try not to cuss, y'all.
But
that's what got me in trouble, all that anger and all that cussing. But basically, I was supposed to have a perfect life. I was supposed to be a doctor and I was supposed to be rich and I was supposed to have this happily ever Cinderella life. But I've learned something, and sometimes I was a Cinderella story. I let somebody put a shoe on my foot that didn't fit, but he told me it was the right shoe, and I was like, okay, even though my foot hurt, right? So and some of us, though, I love to tell a story about other of us who are sleeping beauties. We let a stranger walk up and kiss us, and we run off with a stranger, right? So but I was a Cinderella. And so when my marriage ended after 17 faithful years that I served, um I was broken afterwards. I didn't realize I was broken. I grew up in an era of you don't tell anybody your story. You just go to church and you just pray and God fixes it all. Well, that didn't work so well for me. It doesn't work well for a lot of us. Sometimes you need to actually go and talk to people to get help. But I was, I'm still working. I'm a single mom. I'm taking care of kids. I'm trying to figure all of this out. And at the same time, I'm looking for love. I want love, in my for myself personally, because I'm supposed to have this perfect life to have the happily ever after. And so in that process, though, I vacillated between my feelings being hurt and my emotions, where I would cry or I would be really angry about it. And so, and yet at the same time, raising kids. So I could be, the kick the dog, screaming at the kids, screaming at the animals, resentful about my life. And I didn't get the help that I needed to get, and so I also had used hormone replacement therapy. I was on testosterone, and I was doing great with it for about 5 years. But some kind of way I looked at it only in a sexual way, and I was like, oh, I'm doing great. I don't need to take this hormone anymore. I regret stopping it because I think that was the reason why I was going to get cancer regardless, because my mindset, I was hacking my immune system with my emotions. I really believe emotions play a big role in people having cancer, for not all of us, but probably half of us. And people even have heart attacks. Not all of us, probably half of us, And so I don't know all the statistics on all that, but we do know that it plays a role. And so it wasn't until, I got this diagnosis of breast cancer, which I was shocked. It was the only cancer I ever feared, right? And I got it. So that was like, how could that happen? The one thing I fear, I got. So that tells you something about fearing things. You could bring it to yourself maybe in some sort of way.
Wow.
So, but I had to, then a friend of mine told me about this a perception reframing type of thing that I needed to do. I needed to go back. And when I did go back, I looked back generationally as far back as I could remember. And I realized that I grew up around a lot of violent people who use violence to get stuff done. I kind of had a mafia mindset of like,
thugging it out.
Yeah. And so never had a fight in my life, but I had a mindset of that, of like, I could get somebody taken care of. And so, and it was probably more of a way of survival, how I got through growing up in the inner city. And with being around a lot of violent people, I was lucky. I never, they were like dogs. I could sick them on you.
You're from like the Compton area, right?
No, I grew up in Inglewood, California.
Inglewood.
So, and let me say this to say, back then, I graduated from high school in 1982. And so, that was thank God, crack days. And so, if people had whatever issues, they had a fight, they squashed it out and it was over with. We didn't have gun violence, that sort of thing. I'm really grateful I didn't grow up in that whole kind of era, because that might have changed the whole course of action for my life. But it did put a bit of it was a survival technique. I think it was the reason why, how a person like me who didn't have role models for college and going off to school gave me that, thing within to dig deep and to actually go to college. And then from there decide that I wanted to be a doctor because I wanted to save the world. And then, my career. So, it's interesting how the things that happen to us, what we learn in the streets actually are the things that can actually propel you forward in, in your life, that actually keep you, in the push through the struggle. Because I've never had an easy life. My life is, and I'm not saying I had a hard life, but nothing came easy to me. I wasn't like somebody who had a photographic memory. I had to study hard and learn it and repeat it, and I still do in my life. I'm constantly studying and learning. I mean, I call myself a forever learner.
Yeah.
I'm constantly learning, because I graduated from medical school almost 30 years ago, and or about 30 years ago for sure. And everything's different now. So I'm having to relearn all this new information and process it in my brain to try to help people to be healthier.
Yeah. And to be honest with you, I mean, opening your own clinic and having this for 10 years, what is probably one of the biggest things that people come in here and see other than hormone? Like, what would be their excuses or problems that they come to you with that, oh, this is your hormones?
Right.
Because
right.
that's something that you're able to dissect people, and they think it's one thing, but you're telling them it's hormones. Nine times out of 10, your hormones have been or your therapy has been able to treat people with like depression and losing weight. You just celebrated somebody losing 100 pounds or 75 pounds or something. You know what I mean? So like, it's not only a sexual aspect of things.
Right.
It also has so much in more than that. And what have you noticed that, I would say, what's the main thing that people come to you where you're able to step in, or what do people not know that they don't, like, you don't know what you don't know till you know it.
Right. I mean, personally, I didn't believe in, premenstrual syndrome, having mood swings and irritability prior to your menstrual cycle until I was 40, and I actually got it. So I thought women don't get that crazy. Nobody acts like that. That's just, they're just saying all of that until it happened to me. And then I said, oh my God, this is real, right? I mean, within an hour of starting my menstrual cycle, I'm like as calm as can be. And before that, I was ripping everybody's head off. So, but that brings people in mood changes, mood swings, hot flashes and night sweats, where it's interfering with people's ability to sleep. Cognitive issues, the brain not being able to focus, not being able to think, and focus, where you used to be a multitasker. Like I've had nurses who've said, I'm used to the doctor firing orders and I'm like, boom, 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 everything's in my head. And now I'm having to write everything down. Or the kids are coming at you, or 5 different people are talking to you, and you're like, wait a minute, you feel overwhelmed. And so you're like, what do you want? What do you want? What do you want? What do you want? And then, or, opening up, a can of whoop ass on a 5-year-old because they said, they needed to, or like my 7-year-old, because she said she had a project and it was due the next day, and I'm like, you don't have a project due. And just over responding, overreacting. Also, you're less interested in sex. Sex is not as enjoyable. You're thinking, couldn't we just hold hands? And I have to remind women, they don't marry us to be roommates. So, and to be best friends. So that is, another part of it. And lack of, for some people, they're drifting. Like your body's in the bedroom, but your brain is outside. You're thinking, did I push start on the dishwasher? I got to call so-and-so and tell such and such, and you're in the midst of intercourse, but your body's there, but your mind is outside the room. And so, or you feel like you're getting, close to having an orgasm. And this is specifically for women, and you lose it, like it's gone. And so you're like, that's not going to happen no matter what. So you get so frustrated by that because you used to be an orgasmic person and now you're not. So now, or it takes forever, or like some women say, they're a slow oven to warm, and you end up going, wow, I really like sex. So how come I only want to do it barely once a week, and or you do it once a month and you realize, wow, that's too painful. So, okay, I'll do it out of obligation. And maybe once a month you really enjoy it. So, that's where those are some of the hormonal things. And then for men, it could be just fatigue. Coming home and being so exhausted that they're falling asleep 6, 7 o'clock after dinner. They can't get up and do anything. They start to gain weight. That's another thing. that can happen for men because a third of all men who are diabetics also have low testosterone. And so we believe maybe what's leading to the weight gain and therefore the diabetes is the low testosterone. And so it could also impact the brain. It doesn't necessarily have to impact men's sex drive. Sometimes it does, but they just find themselves maybe also more irritable, more angry, just like we talk about grumpy grandma and grumpy grandpa.
So even low testosterone for men can make men act more sensitive and more will react in a way where they'll lash out.
Yeah.
If their testosterone
more irritable,
isn't right.
Just because you're tired, you just feel fatigued. You don't want to be bothered. Get out of my face. Let me sit here and kind of figure some things out. Or they have this idea of, I need to go out in the backyard. There's lots of things I need to take care of, but they end up falling asleep on the sofa.
Right.
And they're just exhausted. They're fatigued, and again, men can have hot flashes too. So just like women, or start to notice, gynecomastia, which is the breast starting to grow breast. That's a sign of when testosterone goes down, estrogen goes up. So men start what we call, aromatizing, converting that testosterone into estrogen, and they start gaining weight, just like women do in the menopausal years. So we talk about, what women start to lose their hormones and their weight goes up, and the same thing can happen to men. And I'm seeing it in younger and younger people. Like, I think the youngest man I've ever diagnosed with low testosterone, he was overweight, 24 years of age. I've had another one. He wasn't 24. He wasn't overweight, but he was about 25 or 26 with low testosterone. So we're starting to see that, and it may have something to do with our food. It also has a lot to do with stress, because if you're dealing with somebody who has had a very stressful childhood, and now, and experience a lot of things that aren't the typical thing that you should be going through as a kid, that also for men can lower testosterone. And in women, it causes something called polycystic ovarian syndrome, which actually raises their testosterone, but it all points to something called insulin resistance. And that is the biggest thing that we're dealing with. And that means that, like, basically when the body gets sugar, it's supposed to take the sugar and move it into the mitochondria, which is our powerhouse cell, and turn it into energy, right? But these insulin receptors, because they've seen so much glucose because of the food we're eating, they can also be like, shut up, sugar. I know insulin. The insulin receptors like, I'm tired of you. You always knocking on my door. You always want to come and knock on the door, and I'm sick of you. And without that insulin receptor being bound to, it won't open up the door. It's called the GLUT4 receptor, which lets the sugar in. And so now you got all this sugar floating around the periphery, and then that's what leads to
the weight gain.
The weight gain, because now you're not able to build muscle, because your hormones are down. So you could be at the gym, but you can't get the benefits like you used to. So, and you need that sugar to build muscle. So it's like it's a situation, like a storm that leads to obesity. Basically, the insulin resistant leads to the weight gain, and then the weight gain over time can lead to diabetes, high blood pressure because of the weight. So these are the things I never trained as a physician to do, but one of the beautiful things about my career, and why you see so many OBGYNs, how we get involved in so many different things, is because, and even doctors in the emergency room too, a lot of ER doctors, but it's because when women get pregnant, nobody wants to touch them. They're like, oh, you're pregnant, your OB has to do it. So we're the ones that end up managing the diabetes, managing the blood pressure. And I trained in the days where we have the specialist, the perinatologist, but we did a lot of stuff. I think now some of the younger doctors are more apt to just refer and let the perinatologist do it all. But I trained in the days of we did it all. We took care of the blood pressure. I took care of your diabetes. I took care of your thyroid. So me moving into this area of doing this with people was like, it only seemed natural and it made sense because I'd done it before. I just had to learn how to do it better.
How come more people don't know about this?
You know, we live in our healthcare system is one of the fixing of accepting diseases and fixing symptoms, right? And not really looking at why. Where is that coming from? What caused that? And so, you know, stress is a major thing that, you know, all of us can go through, or we go through a storm, right? And all depends on how you deal with your storm. You know, you could have had a bunch of things, a loss of a job, a loss of a loved one, a loss of another loved one, a pet that died, you know, maybe a bankruptcy. I mean, anything that could really just throw you off. And that can really upset the body and throw off our sleep cycle, throw off our eating pattern, throw off our gut because we start getting sick. And if we get sick, maybe you got COVID a few times. Maybe you also got, you know, sinus infections. Different people get different things. You get on antibiotics. And so we get into this whirlwind of things that, you know, we as doctors were trying to help you all, but we don't realize that some parts of what we're doing could actually be leading to us down a road of further health decline. And, you know, that doesn't happen to everybody, but it happens to a bunch of people. And so that's where, you know, everybody knows about Ozempic, everybody knows about Mounjaro, and these are peptides. And so these peptides are really amazing what they can do because our body naturally has these receptors, and some of us are deficient in it. Why? Maybe stress. I'm not real sure, but we've got some tools in our box, and people think that these are newer drugs. They've been out 15, 20 years. There have been a lot of doctors who do functional medicine and who do, you know, longevity medicine. They've been treating people for years with it. The drug companies just kind of caught on and saw the benefit, like the weight loss benefit. And that is the, you know, that's the reason why probably, you know, Medicare made insulin cheap, because they were like, you know, oh, well, we got to get rid of all these stockpiles because we got a new drug coming that we got to make billions off of. And so, and yet these medications, if used improperly, they can cause some bad side effects too, because just because you go on these medications, or if you're doing the, you know, doing these peptides, you know, that doesn't mean that instead of you eating, you know, 5 bags of potato chips, now you just eat one and you just eat all the same bad foods, right? You have to change, and you can't do something and not exercise, because, and that's what gets a lot of us in trouble too, is we hit a stress wall. And, you know, the last thing you want to do when you're stressed out, you know, you're going to feel better, but guess what you want to do? You
sit on the couch.
You just want to sit on the sofa. You're like, you want to take a nap. You might feel depressed. You might feel down. And you're trying to, like, that is, you know, when I get depressed, guess what? I get really sleepy. Gotta take naps. I need to rest. And, you know, but the problem is if we do that for too much and too long and we don't really move, you know, and, so that it's a bunch of things that are really involved, but we kind of get in this spiraling down. So I kind of see everything as like a funnel, and my job is, you know, to pull people out, right? That I gotta throw a lot of ropes down though. If some people need a couple, 2 or 3, some of y'all need 10 or 15, you know, but we slowly pull you out and get you out and get you on the road to recovery and feeling better. And really, you know, my practice, Live Agelessly, was created, really, I feel like it was a gift from the Lord, because I was thinking about myself and what I wanted. And I said, I just want to live. I want to live agelessly. And that's where I don't mind getting older. I'll be 60 this year. I don't have a problem with that.
You look great for 60.
Thank you. I work at it. I got to do some more stuff to myself. But, you know, everything natural as long as I can. And, but the goal is, you know, I don't mind getting older. I just don't want to feel old. And, I want to be the best that I can possibly be. And I also feel a responsibility that I have to be a role model. I can't be telling somebody else what they need to be doing. If I'm going to talk the talk, I got to walk the walk. And
Absolutely.
I was fortunate that I was thin my whole life. It wasn't until really I was 40 that and I moved here, that with all the stress that came with the changes in my life, in terms of I came here married, and then within 5 years I'm no longer married. My mother passed. That was another thing that hit me too. My best friend. And so and meaning my mother was my best friend. She was everything. And so me having to pull myself, how do I take care of children and raise them, and you know and yet not let them know how scared I am in the whole process, right? But and to really keep myself responsible to my patients, and so I've been blessed, because I've had the fortunate to be able to work with women. And so women, we know how to, there would be times when my patients would come to see me, and they were coming because they knew they were checking in on me. They wanted to make sure I was doing okay. And so, which was, that's incredible. When people are coming, they're like, no, I came to give you a massage. I'm like, what? And just really, that's where, like, a person like Wendy.
Yeah.
Wendy helped me to build my hormone practice. She went on hormones, and she understood what hormones did, and she just started bringing people in by the groves,
Well,
so that I could, help them. But at the same time, I was learning how to do these hormones. How would they help women? I'm still learning, and I consider myself a forever learner.
Well, you've done amazing, and that's why I wanted to sit here with you. And you said something really interesting earlier about just how you were in an environment where your mindset was in a toxic place. So can you talk about how, just like I'm dealing with right now? I have a friend of mine, a really good friend of mine, and just he's not in the best mindset right now. But I told him that his environment is really one thing that really could, keep you from going to the next level. And like when you moved here, was that a better environment for you to live in a different way, or did it give you a better opportunity, or what was that move like? Because I know when you change, things change around you, people change around you. And so, like, how has the environment even helped you even?
I think when change occurs, sometimes we look at change as a setback, right? But I think setbacks, I've learned, are setups for better things to occur. And so, and change is difficult because we all like to have predictability in our life, and we want everything to be the same. And we always want to be we don't want to be in the valley. We want to be at the mountaintop. But there's things to be learned in the valley. And sometimes, you can't be on the mountaintop because you're not ready yet. Sometimes we can't be promoted to where we need to be because there's some things we need to move out of our life, because there may be gifts and blessings for us, but we're not going to get them until we get these other people out of the way, because they're really just for you and you can't have them. The other people will steal them from you. And until you get rid of them, God loves us so much, he's not going to give it to you until you move those people out the way. And so, and it's hard when people that come into our life, and we think that their season is going to last forever, but some people will come into our lives and their season might only be 6 months, and you thought they were going to be there forever, right? But they're only meant to be there for that short period of time, and we just have to accept that and move on, because some people are better not being in our lives, and it's hurtful. I heard my patient told me today, she's my age, and her mother wants, who they live up the street for, they care for mom and dad said, we want nothing else to do with you. And we're taking you off the wheel, but we're going to put your kids on the wheel. Okay. How do you how do you process that? So that, because that's a hurtful thing, and you don't understand what happened and what made them do that. We don't expect our family members to abandon us, and to tell us that they no longer want anything to do with us. Or we could have something happen where with a sibling, and something happens, and now that relationship, which was close at one time, is now broken, right?
Yeah.
So and those are, I'm trying to think where's my point, where am I going with all of this? But though
The environment,
the environment that we're in, and being around other people, sometimes when things change and jobs go away and people go away, we just have to understand that sometimes that's going to be a necessary evil that needs to occur in our lives, and think of it in a different light. And and say to ourselves, what did I learn from that? Because sometimes we get involved in relationships with people that we should have never had a dang on relationship with them to begin with, right?
Yeah.
Like, you were warned, do not get around this person, stay away, and you didn't listen. You gave them the benefit of the doubt, But I love what Maya Angelou says when she says, when somebody shows you who they are, believe them the first time.
Boom.
Not the second time. As soon as if you see somebody has gone into business and they ripped another person off, right, in some kind of way, why would you go into business with that person? You already know what their personality is like. Or let's just say this is your good friend, your homie, your ride or die, and she messes around with all these married men. Okay, but you're single, no big deal. Now you get married. You gonna introduce her to your husband? I wouldn't do that. Because I'm going to tell you what she's going to do.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's just who she is. It's just like, my friend told me there's a scorpion, and he's on one side of the pond, and he needs to get over to the other side. So he asked the toad, can you give me a ride over? And Toad's like, no, man, because you're going to sting me. And he's like, no, I'm not going to sting you. Just give me a ride over to the other side. So he gives him a ride. In the middle of the pond, he starts stinging the fuck out of him, right? And then he's like, when he gets to the other side, he said, man, what'd you do that for? He said, you knew I was a scorpion. You know what I'm saying? So we got to be careful with who we're around.
Yeah.
People will show us who they are. And if you did that to them, what chance? That was your brother you did that to. What chance do I have? None.
Right.
So, all I can say is that we're going to go through a lot in this life, but we have to find the good in it, because, something bad could happen. But then if you see it like in a good light, like I'll tell you, for example, so I do this thing, I rob Peter to pay Paul all the time. I get these credit cards, and they'll let me write a check. So I'm like, okay. And if you take care of your credit and you pay your stuff, they'll let you have higher limits, and then they'll send you these little checks, and they'll give you a year to pay it off. So I did that, and I did it on this way. This bank said, oh, you can't do that. Well, a while ago, I said, I'm going to just deposit it right into my business account. And it took the check, and I said, oh, okay. I did it on my telephone. I see they reversed it. My account is overdrawn, like almost $9,000. This is yesterday. And I start freaking out. I know why. That man told me at the bank. See, my daddy always said a hard head make a soft behind. I got a lot of whoopings. So, because I don't like to listen. So I knew exactly what it was, but I had an extra check. And I looked at the clock. I just happened to check my bank account. And this is God. It's 20 minutes to 5. I was like, grab the other check, run to the bank, deposit into your personal checking account. And I stayed calm the whole time. Like I was like, you got plenty of time. I got home. I was home by 5 o'clock. The lady said, oh, we're going to release $400. I'm like, oh, Lord, my bank accounts are down to like 400, my 200 for my business account. This is not good. My personal, everything's gone. I'm wiped out. I looked in there today. That $15,000 is there. And I said, look at that. I could have freaked out. I could have got myself all worked up. So I'm really learning how to see the good, where something bad happens, but if I could stay calm in the process, that I could see that it all worked out anyway. I made a mistake. I did it the wrong way. It got rectified. Yes, I got a year to pay that $15,000 back, y'all. But don't worry, I will, because I don't want to pay the late fees on the money. And that's, that's a whole nother thing, my strategy of how to do money. I hope one day this stops. because I keep saying, God, you got all this land. Where's my goats? Where's my land? Where's my territory? So I don't have to be struggling like that, because a lot of people have these ideas that doctors are rich and we have tons of money. You'd be surprised how many of us are just like everybody else, you know.
You just get paid a little bit larger money with a little bit larger bills.
Yeah, well, you know, and I try to stay in my lane, and not make my overhead, you know, higher than it should be, because, you know, there's a lot of times you'll hear that voice and you'll think it's, you know, it's coming from a higher power to tell you something good, and it's not. It's coming from the devil himself to get you trapped into something that's going to stress you out every single month. It's like, yeah, I'd like that Mercedes, but I don't want to pay $1,500 a month for a car. I don't have a car. No, I like living like that. That's a lot less stress on me.
No, for sure. Well, you also, and you've hit a couple key points that I wanted to bring up. So obviously you've been able to try some of my cross-country wellness CBD products.
Yes.
And from a doctor standpoint, so you introduced, I asked you one day at dinner, I said, what would be your way of describing how CBD worked? And you kind of, because of our CB1 and CB2 receptors, you kind of explained it in a very simplified form. Do you remember about ringing the doorbell?
Oh, okay. So I think what I said is, well, basically what happens
and correct me if I'm wrong, but this is for most natural products that have receptors in our body. So
right.
Like peptides and any type of receptors in our body.
Right.
Can you explain how those are more beneficial and why they work with the receptors opposed to a man-made something that is repelling, I guess, or not knowing if they're going to bind?
Right. I think what I was talking about was peptides and how they work. But, you know, a lot of things work this way too. If we have, you know, multiple receptors that are in cells, basically, it's basically a cell signaler. It sends a message, and the cells, drugs are made to work a set way, and they get on that receptor and they just hold on to it, and they do one thing, and that's all they do. But signaling agents send a message, and it's really up to the cell to decide whether or not it wants to listen to that message. And if it's a message it wants to hear, it's going to open the door and allow that message to come into the cell, and then the cell will then respond and do what it wants to do. Versus drugs will only work in one way, and they often may not even be cell signalers. They get in there and they may interfere and block a pathway, and that's all they do is that one little thing, and they do it over and over and over again. So, but when you have cell signaling going on, it allows the body to respond in a way that it wants to. And so I know for me, when I got that diagnosis of breast cancer, one of my friends took me to see Shanabis. And so Shanabis had a family concoction of, it was a combination of, it was a sativa, and I always forget indica, sativa, and which one does whatever. And so it was, you know, made for me. And I also had a CBD product. And so the lady was like, well, you just need to be like Cheech and Chong during the day and take the one that's going to relax you. Is that the indica?
Yeah.
And then you know, do that so you could just be zonked out. And believe me, you get a cancer diagnosis, you want to be zonked out. I couldn't believe this happened to me, because I'm nobody in my family ever been diagnosed with breast cancer, and I'm all about vitamins and supplements, and, you know, pure example of how if you don't have the right mindset, it don't matter how many damn pills you swallow, right? So you can still jack your immune system from being crying all the time, negative, and, you know, being that way. I always say, you know, let your doctor get sick. I bet you, hopefully you get a better doctor, because it will change your mindset. But the CBD was a part of it as well, because I remember one time I woke up and I was like, I said, man, I'm high. And I didn't want my staff to know what I was doing, right? And I said, I need to get rid of this. And my friend Tim, who's a physician, he recommended me to see this lady. He's like, Maria, you know, there's THC receptors and they work with cancer cells. And I was looking at some literature and I was like, I'll do it. I'll do whatever it takes because I want to live. And so I had to take CBD to reverse it so I could go to work. And I remember they were dropping stuff and probably broke a few things. And I was like, it's all right. Where ordinarily I would be like, hey, watch, you know, I'd be upset. But, you know, for your CBD products, I definitely have seen people get relief with things like pain when nothing else worked for them, or they tried everything. For me, the CBD helped a little bit, but what helped the most was because I had sciatic pain was exercise and just working out and exercising. And it took 2 years, but it worked. That and using the CBD. I believe in doing some of everything, whatever it takes, because I'm one of these people that something will work on me for a little while, and then after that, that's no longer working. So now I'll try something else, and that'll work for a little while, and then I got to try the next thing. So,
no, that's great, because that's essentially how you and I had described it to my buddy here earlier. We had a coffee this morning, and I was like, hey man, I really want you to come record this with me. I think this would be really cool, but let me explain to you how I was explained from a doctor how this CBD works. And you basically said CBD knocks on the door, and whether it's sleep or anxiety or inflammation, your knee hurts, your lower back hurts, whatever needs it the most is going to open up the door and be like, hey, come over here. I need you the most.
Yes.
And so and then you said drugs basically just attaches onto you. Like it's almost like, like jumping you almost.
Yeah, like a hormone. A hormone jumps on that, like a testosterone is going to jump on a testosterone receptor. It's just going to hump the heck out of it, right? Because it's like, you're mine. But cell signaling agents don't do that. They basically send a message to the cell and say, hey, do you want to let me in? And if the cell's like, no, then it goes, okay, and it moves on, right? So I kind of see them as like swimming through like this whole thing and looking, and other cells are like, hey, come on over here. I like what you're saying. I like that message. I'm willing to listen to you, as opposed to forcing it to do something.
Yeah. No. And so testosterone, even though it's naturally built in the body, when you inject it or you take it by capsule or however it's.
So testosterone has to be either, it has to go through the skin in some kind of way. You can't take it orally because it gets to the liver and that can cause liver cancer.
Oh, wow.
So usually you can do it in a troche format under the tongue. I've never had really good success, but some people do get good success with that. But usually it's topical, or it's injected, or it's a pellet that gets, implanted underneath the skin. But those type of receptors we've got testosterone receptors in our brain, in our breasts, in the, in our muscle, they're in bone. So they're everywhere. And so those receptors can upregulate when you use higher amounts. Sometimes when I have like a woman and she's never experienced testosterone, but she's having no sex drive, the first time we give her like an injection, I tell her, you're not going to feel anything with the first shot. And the second shot, when you come in, you're going to probably be like, I don't know. But when they come in for the third shot, a lot of the times they're like, I like that. I can tell there's a difference. Yeah. And so it takes, you have to upregulate those receptors to get them to want to get more of them, and then to get them to want to respond, and in women in particular. And men, you all are built on a platform of testosterone. So
is there a way that women can build testosterone naturally without having to get injections?
Well, women, we don't have a lot of testosterone per se, unless if you have a condition called polycystic ovarian syndrome, they tend to make more testosterone, but it's a little bit different for them because they also have that insulin resistance, which puts them at risk for diabetes and that sort of thing, and weight gain. And I think we've all seen a woman with PCOS. If you ever see a woman who's overweight and you kind of notice a mustache, or she could be thin but has, you know, a shadow, those women, that's all hormonally induced.
And that can be fixed.
Yes, absolutely. You have to work on the insulin resistance. And so, and those are my favorite women to get pregnant, because I had almost 100% success rate, because it's all about lowering the insulin resistance and helping them with that.
Wow.
But so with women, it's like building up these receptors and actually helping their body to, you know, have more of them. But when you're younger, a lot of people don't have those issues because those receptors work really well. But I don't know what happens if they get tired. They just don't function as well, you know, and that's the reason why we got to upregulate and overload the system and add more hormone into the body so that people can actually feel like they used to feel and have their, you know, I call it getting your sexy back. And so, but for, cause that's how I felt when I got testosterone. I felt more like myself than I had ever felt in 10 years. And I cried and I said, I can't believe no doctor ever told me about this. I was 45 then. And I said, I needed this when I was 35. And I wish somebody had told me. And then I built my practice looking for women who are like me, because I felt more like myself than I ever had. You know, and I think it's part of the reason why I was able to get a divorce, because I became a stronger person to be able to make decisions for myself, because I was kind of in a situation where I was being somewhat gaslit or whatever, but I didn't know what gaslighting was back then, but that's what was going on. And now I know, I'm like, damn, that was my life. But you know, with men, it's different though. You all are built on a platform of testosterone. So
I can go to the gym and work out and it'll naturally occur.
Yeah, for some. But for others, like I said, it depends what happened to us. And if something has happened to kind of hack our system and we start developing that insulin resistance, the body's not wanting to respond to sugar the same way. The I don't know who's doing what first. If it's the low T testosterone that's leading to the weight gain in men, that leads to the diabetes, or if the diabetes pushes the testosterone levels down. I would just say, you know, men are to really, a lot of times doctors don't want to measure this in men, even when they're like tired or they're like, oh, you have diabetes. Screen these men, look and see what is their testosterone, because if you treat them with testosterone, you're going to actually help treat the insulin resistance, because they're going to be able to build muscle. Of course, you can't just do shots and be like, I'm just going to build muscle because I'm taking a shot of testosterone. No, you got to exercise.
Yeah.
You know, and then there's other things too, you know, where peptides that actually help with building muscle. We got cheats, y'all. We could tell the people sometimes who are cheating in the gym. You're like, how do you get all that ripped up, you know? And there's safe ways to do it. You don't have to do it in the back of the gym. There are, you know, people like me who know what it is to be able to offer you, or, you know, and there are other docs out there who've been doing this for biohacking people for years to help them to be as fit as they can possibly be.
No, and I'm just more impressed with just how you are easily able to digest something that seems so difficult and make it sound so easy. So like,
well, that's my life. That's, you know, my goal was so one way for me, the reason I do that is because that's the only way I'm going to remember it. I got to make it so that I know how to be able to explain it to someone. But the other thing we didn't talk about, that is the biggest thing that I'm discovering. And when we talked about depression, anxiety, those things, is the gut, because a lot of us have a lot of digestive issues. We are not having bowel movements every day, or we have diarrhea more than you. I can't remember when's the last time I had diarrhea. That's how we should be. A lot of us are popping pills for heartburn. So because we have a lot of indigestion. And when you do that, you're blocking acid production. And when you block acid production in the stomach, you're actually making it so you can't digest your food. So now you got this partially undigested food that's sitting around inside of your gut longer, and it's kind of rotting away. And these other bugs that are supposed to be there, they start overgrowing, and it becomes a feed fest. And so, and then, our food is different. We live in the desert. So all this food is being barred in and trucked in, all our produce. And many of us, we buy something from, I did this, I barred some fresh greens on Sunday, and they're still in the refrigerator looking all wilted. Okay, now where's the nutritional value of that? I got it straight from the farm. I should have cooked it that same day.
Yep.
So, imagine the stuff in the produce section in the market. How old is that stuff? A couple days old, and then we take it home and we don't do anything with it for 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 days later. So the nutritional value of the food is different. So, and then, again, if you, like I said, you had stress, you ended up on antibiotics, and that throws off the microbiome, the gut flora, what's supposed to be in there. So it's like it becomes this fire, for
a vicious cycle of just
vicious cycle. So you got to fix, Hippocrates said it. How old he is? I took a Hippocratic oath, do no harm, right? And all disease begins in the gut. So that's been the newest thing. Like I've seen people that I know I read it and they said, oh, depression, anxiety can come out of the gut. And I've helped some of these people, including my own daughter, which I think she, I thought all that anxiety and her flipping off and getting mad and pissed off and storming off fixed her gut. She can get angry, but she can calm down more easily and come back to like normal and be able to communicate. And I realized that, wow, a lot of people who are being diagnosed with anxiety, depression, bipolar, all these different conditions, and they got digestive stuff going on, it's in the gut. You fix these people's guts and they get better. And doing it with nothing but supplements, no meds. I would have never thought as a physician I could fix and heal people with supplements. And all the parasites, like I know I had a girlfriend, she'd been telling me for 10 years now, parasites, everybody's got parasites. Marie, you need to do a parasite cleanse. You might have parasite. And I did that. And
she does poop test.
Yeah. We analyze your poop. So, that's what I call the poop test, but it's, the GI map is one of them. And I may have found an even better one, but I'm getting good results with the GI map. And it is showing me what is going on. And I was telling my mentor that I said, because he was talking about everything down low, and I was like in his face, and he's like a brainiac. But I don't care you're a brainiac. I'm going to get in your face. I'll be like, Doc, you got to remember this part. It all starts at the top. And a lot of us have H. pylori in our stomach. And because when we do the testing, if you do the regular test, it's more of a qualitative, positive, negative. And a lot of us are hovering just below that. We're going to test negative, but it's there. And it's creating downstream problems because H. pylori, which is a bacteria that's in the gut, it actually blocks this enzyme that makes stomach acid. And that's the reason why people are getting heartburn. And then you go and take a pill and that makes it even worse.
Damn. So,
so now if you don't have enough acid in your stomach, there could be parasites in food. I mean, of course there are. It could be, a person could have parasites, and somebody was telling me stuff that I was like, man, I didn't think about this, but y'all need to be careful about doing some things sexually, like, tossing salads and stuff, because that's germs that's in your mouth, and they got parasites in their poop, and that's going right into you. So, I'm just saying that's a whole nother level. I heard that today and I said, oh, I never thought about that, but you are absolutely, no. So, I mean, you got to be careful with stuff like that, because you could pick up, a same thing with our pets. We love our pets, but you don't let the dog lick you all in the mouth, because, I call mine, what do I call them? Pickleators. They're always licking each other's pickles. And I said, they're pickleators. You can't kiss me in my mouth. You're a pickleator, and so, but we have to, those are other ways that germs can kind of get into the body, but also from being on, again, antibiotics. And that could start again in childhood. I mean, I just did one of my patients asked me if I would test her child. And I was like, oh, I don't really do kids. She's like, please, Dr. Keller, I just want to get him tested. And I can't believe what's in this kid. And he's got some issues, and I'm looking forward to healing him naturally. I'm going to get some of my friends that are naturopaths to teach me on how to do it. And I got naturopaths and nurse practitioners. I don't care who teaches me. I am like so humble as a physician. I want to learn. And if you know something and you've been healing people,
and you're keeping it from you,
and I want to know. I want you to teach me so I can be a better. My goal is to be a healer, and I want to learn from the best of the best. And if you've been doing it for 20 years, having benefits and results, I want to learn from you. But yeah, a lot of it too is doing the gut testing, and people are losing weight with that, and especially when I have people like that lose 50, 60 pounds, I'm like, we ought to look at your gut and get to the real root cause of why you probably gained that weight to begin with. What's going on inside of your digestive tract? So, and we can analyze that. So there's a lot of testing out there. Unfortunately, you all, it's not covered by insurance. So if a lot of you are like, oh, I want to come and see her,
you gotta pay. But I'm glad I'm glad you segued into that, because we've got a few minutes left. We've got about 5 or 6 minutes left. But if people are trying to come see you, Dr. Maria, like, is there a way that you can help people that are out of state as well?
That's something that I was talking to this functional lawyer, and even with vitamins, I can't, because
they have to come to Vegas.
They have to come to Vegas,
And you do.
If they come to Vegas once a year, I could take care of you. Okay. See, I gotta lay eyeballs on you. I have to physically see you. So that is just the to protect my license.
Yeah, for sure. And that's why I came to you, is because I appreciate what you do for people, and I don't feel like enough people know about this. You know what I mean? So, like, even if you're able to share this and they can go see their own doctor, you know what I mean? That's one thing that's huge. So
yeah, a lot of what I do.
We're gonna wrap up real quick, just because we're getting close to it. But
yeah, I got a plug.
If anybody wants to get a hold of you in Vegas, can you just plug yourself and let them know where to reach you?
I would recommend go to my website, Live Agelessly, LiveAgelessly, and look at my website. The other thing you can do is you can go to my Instagram, LiveAgelessly_LV, and see the stuff that I'm posting there, because I'm posting stuff about, really trying to do some follow-ups on some of these patients and their results. And you guys are going to see my real response, because I am amazed by when these people, what they say to me. If you see me go, that's not me pretending. That's me, because I like to do things kind of like where they just tell me right on the cuff. I want you to see my real response. And it's very, like, I get teary-eyed, because I never thought as a physician that I'd be doing what I'm doing to really help people to heal and to get better. And it's what I've always wanted to do. I feel like it's what I was born to do. At the same time, I have to protect myself, because Jesus healed a lot of people and they killed him for it. So I have to be careful, because there are, like, to follow all these rules, because my goal is to be able to keep doing what I'm doing, and working at my craft to get better and to get smarter and to know more. And I feel like, by the time I'm 70, I should be at the top of my game. So, and I'm hoping by 65, another 5 years, I'll really be at the top of my game, because what I want to do is, there's stuff that can be done that reverses dementia. If you catch it early, that's a fatal thing. You get, a loved one, they get dementia, they're like, oh, it's all over with. No, that's not true. There's stuff that can be done to actually reverse it. And there are people who are working on all of that. and have, it's very expensive to be on their supplements. They might cost $1,000 a month, but that might be cheaper than living in what I call those prisons for old folks on Horizon Ridge, those convalescent homes. Those to me are, I don't want to live in a place like that. And so, but to get in touch with me, that's one way. And watch the stuff that I'm posting, you all, because I'm really trying to get myself out there to dispel the myths and just share the information on what I'm learning, even with my patients. I never would think that people's anxiety, depression, pain would go away by fixing their gut. So it's really a fascinating area of medicine that I'm in now, and the healing part, which is what I wanted to do from the very onset. And here I am 30 years into being in medicine, and it's really in the last 10 to 15 years, half of it I was just doing the regular stuff day in, day out. It just kind of got boring to me that I started to think there's got to be other ways, other things out there, and I just started learning more and more and more. So the hormone replacement therapy, the functional medicine, then the cellular medicine, and now the restorative medicine. All of this stuff is just so fascinating, and there's hope for us out there. You all don't take a diagnosis laying down and that you'll never be well. You keep your mind set right, you can heal. People ask me, I never say this, my cancer. It was never mine. I never wanted that. It's not your diabetes. It's not your autoimmune disease. It's not yours. Did you want that? I never wanted that. So I don't claim these things. And we have to not, don't let somebody say, how's your breast cancer? I'll tell them, it wasn't mine. I didn't want that. I just, how you doing? I'm doing great. Oh, you doing what you healed? I healed what caused it. So, but I'm also working on healing my body too. That's a constant effort. So.
Well, I thank you more than anything for your time, because I know your time is our most valuable asset. And
thank you. Thank you for interviewing me.
Yeah.
I'm hoping somebody gets some kind of benefit.
Oh my God, are you kidding me? If they didn't get any type of benefit out of this, then they don't need to be.
Listen, just my thing is, just you got to keep looking and searching and finding until you find that person that hears you. When, as a physician, I made the mistake of not listening to people, and I was like, she just crazy. She just want to be sick. And then one of my friends, he checked me. He was a naturopath. He said, that's what's wrong with you doctors. You always blaming the patients. It's your job to be CSI to figure out what's wrong with them. And that was my eye-opening experience, because he was right. I lost a patient, and I was another doctor who did that person wrong and not listening to them. So, I don't believe, there are probably some people out there who they want to be sick, but the majority of us want to be well. You just have to keep looking until you find that person who's going to get you well. And we're out there. I'm not by myself. There are a lot of us that think like me. So, you just, it's funny how my patients get well and they go back to their doctors, and I go, what did your doctor say? And they say, he didn't say anything. He told me to keep taking that omeprazole. I said, but you told him. She said, I told him I don't need that anymore. You fixed me with that BPC. I don't need it anymore. My gut, they do the scope. Everything's normal. Oh, one of my patients had an aortic aneurysm. It's gone. I asked a friend of mine, a colleague, 20 years in cardiology. And I said, have you ever heard of an aortic aneurysm going away? Because it was almost 5 centimeters. And she said, never. And I did cardiology for 20 years. And all I can do is this.
Praise God.
Like, there's stuff out there, you all. The body is 100% capable of reversing. We can reverse. I'm not saying you can get 100% on everything, but
where's my credit card, Dr. Maria? I'll get it out right now.
I take credit cards.
Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is Dr. Maria Keller. She is the owner of Live Agelessly. And if you've got any ounce of knowledge out of this podcast, please go and hit the subscribe button, like, share it for your family, share it for your friends, share it for people that are out there that need to hear how to get better, because I'm sitting down with a certified doctor right here that actually has way more credibility than most anybody that I've ever talked to, and just one of the smartest people, and she cares. So she doesn't want to see you 10 times. She wants to heal you and get you out of here. So, just thank you so much for being here. I appreciate
thank you so much for just falling in love with me. I was like, why does he love me automatically? But I was, I think that's one of those kind of things that when we met, I kind of was, I said, well, maybe what is it that I'm saying? Or you just, I don't know. Sometimes you meet people and you just vibe, and so
we were in Spain drinking some wine, and we were sitting outside and we were having coffee that one morning, and you were talking to either Wendy or somebody. And it was just, I'm like you, I'm young, and I heard what you were talking about, and I was dealing with gut problems myself, and just knowing that like I wasn't in the shape that I wanted to be in or anything like that. And you really opened my eyes to just saying that like it was either testosterone or even men's hormones.
Yeah.
Because you, what'd you call it? You said you have a funny name that you call hormones for men. Or you refer to men. You deal with,
menopause.
Yeah. Menopause. So, and those are real things. And so
menopause, mental pause,
all that.
Some of y'all crazy, but you know what? It might be coming out your gut. And you got to think about that, because especially when you take the antidepressants and you take the meds and you don't get better, that ain't it, right? You take the medicine for the disease and you get worse. Guess what? That's not it. That's the reason why you got worse. That's why the medicine didn't work. So, go on my Instagram. I got a patient, 30 years. She had anxiety, depression, and it was all coming out of her gut. She had chronic pain, and she doesn't have it anymore. I wanted to cry. 30 years is a long time to be suffering with something. And I'm so grateful that she was willing to let me help her, So,
well, thank you for helping more than you know that you're going to help with this podcast, because this is going to live forever on the internet. So, but hey, it's going to show how much evolves in time and stuff like that. And maybe when you're at your peak at 65, we can go take another glance at this and see what we can do.
When I'm 65, the Lord send me those people that are like paying me $20,000 a year to take care of them, and then the doctor only has to have 10 patients.
Let's go. Well, hey, I love you to death. Thank you for doing this for me, and
you're welcome.
I can't wait to do it again. Y'all go check out Dr. Maria. Live agelessly, y'all. Another Above the Clouds podcast with Jay Bird and Dr. Maria. Peace.